Saddam Hussein from power. This foreign occupation was only the latest episode in a long series of wars, revolts, and foreign occupations that have plagued the Middle East for decades. As for the war in Iraq, it has happened before.
Fort Rutbard on the oil pipeline from Kirkuk was occupied by Rashid Ali's forces at the beginning of May. Our cameraman in Iraq now sends us these pictures of the famous Arab Legion working in conjunction with our forces during the final attack leading to the capture of the fortress.
Exactly when did all of this conflict begin? And how did the Western world become so involved in the Middle East? To answer these questions, we must go back to a time when the Middle East was known as the Ottoman Empire, to a time when its armies fought in World War I. We need to follow the story of that war and its political impact on the Middle East. We must go back to the year of 1914. With surprise naval attacks against Odessa, Sevastopol, Yalta, and other Russian cities, the Ottoman Empire, spanning from the southeastern tip of Europe, across modern-day Turkey, to the Arabian Desert and the Caucasus Mountains, plunges into the cataclysm of a world war that is already claiming thousands of lives on the battlefields of France. Three men are in control of the Ottoman government in Istanbul: Enver Pasha, the Minister of War; Talat Pasha, the Minister of Interior; and Jamal Pasha, Minister of the Navy. These three leaders rule as dictators over more than 20 million people. About half of them are Turks. The other half is made up of Arabs, Greeks, Armenians, and other minorities. Enver Pasha is determined to join Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire in their fight against France, Great Britain, and Russia. The German Emperor, Wilhelm II, has already sent a military mission to Istanbul, led by General Lehman von Sanders.
At the time, there was no reason to suppose that the Ottoman Empire would be a part of it, or that the Middle East would be involved in it. It was a European affair, and not a Middle Eastern one. But as a sort of accident, the Ottoman Empire did come into the war. And though I say an accident, in a sense it was not an accident, because it was the work of a very talented conspirator and plotter, Enver Pasha.
Enver manipulates the government in Istanbul and slowly leads the Ottoman Empire into war. On October 25, 1914, Enver issues his fateful orders that will send hundreds of thousands to their deaths. He orders the Turkish fleet into the Black Sea to start a war against Russia. The mission is accomplished all too well. After that fateful attack, the Ottoman Empire will not live to see another day of peace. In the east, on the Caucasus front, Russian troops advance into the fringes of Anatolia, Turkish heartland of the Ottoman Empire. To the south, British and Indian troops land near Basra in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. They are sent to protect the precious oil fields that lie in neighboring Persia, now known as Iran. At the Dardanelles, British warships bombard the Gallipoli Peninsula, reminding the Turks that this small but strategically important stretch of land must be defended at all costs. Less than 2 weeks from the start of hostilities, Istanbul finds its empire attacked on 3 wide-ranging fronts. While General von Sanders focuses on the defense of Istanbul and the Dardanelles, Enver Pasha has a more grandiose plan. He will take command of the Ottoman Third Army and drive the Russians from eastern Anatolia and back over the Caucasus Mountains. The fact that the Third Army is unprepared to fight a campaign in harsh winter weather doesn't seem to bother Enver in the least.
The Ottoman Empire was unprepared to wage war in 1914. They had been badly defeated in the Balkan Wars of 1912-1913. Their army had been shattered. They had no money. Their reserves of equipment were gone. They'd lost about 250,000 men already. So in 1914, when all of Europe was wildly enthusiastic about going to war, marching in bands and flags, the Ottomans were not.
3 days before Christmas, the Ottoman Third Army, nearly 120,000 men, launches an attack against the Russians. The soldiers have no heavy clothing, they have no tents. Yet they must endure bitter cold that reaches to 30 degrees below zero. As the soldiers move through treacherous mountain pathways, some units simply lose their way in the blinding snow. On December 25th, at a place called Sarıkamış, the Turkish force tries to encircle the Russians.